Hey guys, it's Gerald. So today I want to pay tribute to Charlie Munger, one of the greatest thinkers and investment minds to have lived. So he passed away at age 99, 2 months before his 100th birthday. So I want to take this video and share some of his wisdom as well as show my appreciation for his kind sharing. So Charlie Munger is known as Warren Buffett's right-hand man, and he is instrumental in helping Warren Buffett grow as an investor. So after they met, in their, early 30s or late 20s for Warren Buffett, he helped him transform from Benjamin Graham's cheap, mediocre company investing style to more of a Philip Fisher investing in wonderful businesses at fair prices and type of investing methodology. So Charlie Munger had a big influence in my childhood as I struggled to find my identity as I transit from being a professional athlete to finding another life purpose. That was a time where I faced a lot of setbacks. I tried multiple businesses which failed one after another. I invested, I lost all my money that I spent years trying to save up. So it was that time where I actually read about Charlie Munger through one of the most authentic books about Warren Buffett, which is named Warren Buffett and the Snowball of Life. I'm going to just pop it up right here. And through that, Charlie stood out. He mentioned briefly about the story of how he met Charlie. And that was when I kind of like, hey, this guy's pretty interesting. I didn't really know much about him and he's so influential, so why not learn about him? And it was true then that I learned that he actually had a extremely tragic, tough early career. He was divorced. He had to take care of his kids. Back then, I think his son, who was 9 years old, actually got leukemia. And at that point in time, there was no medical insurance. So he had to fork out everything he had. In the end, his son actually died in his arms. And he was like, imagine that feeling of your son dying, having to bury your own son. And then a year later, he actually lost one of his eye. He had to remove it because it was in terrible medical pain. So with so much loss, literally becoming an established lawyer to losing all your wealth and, having your son pass away and your eye, despite all these tragedies, he still lived a very, very happy life. So he imparted a lot of wisdom that helped me develop my character, my strength to live a better and happier life. And hopefully through this, I can, celebrate his wisdom and share it with you. Pray not for an easy life, but the strength to live for a tough one. So let's celebrate his wisdom with 10 lessons from Charlie Munger. So this is taken from his speeches as well as his famous book, The Poor Charlie's Almanac, which is a collection of speeches from Charlie Munger himself. So tip number 1 is to keep learning. Charlie said that he has met no wise people that don't read all the time. So of course, in today's day and age, it may not purely be from reading. It could be through, attending courses, lectures. It could be watching videos. It could be from podcasts, as long as you're gaining knowledge and not, factoids or gossips, which are not quite knowledge. You should be fine. He also mentioned that you should learn multiple mental models, and through learning hundreds of mental models, which he has, be able to assemble them in a connected network. So that gives you an edge over someone who specializes deeply in one field and does not have a lot of mental models. So to quote him, he said, a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So you don't want to be someone who is tunnel vision, you want to have broad perspective. That was his way of teaching or sharing that knowledge. So just to try to group another one of his words of wisdom is that you want to learn vicariously from other people's mistakes so that you do not have to waste time and waste a lot of money trying to repeat the same mistakes. And through that, use that to build more mental models. So tip number 2 is about his early childhood, where he learned from Warren Buffett's grandfather the ethics of working hard. So the way to win in life is to work and work and work super hard. And through working really hard, you hope to have a few insights that gives you a competitive advantage that builds, what you are good at. So he has consistently shared this in a lot of his speeches, as well as to all his kids, the importance of working hard to do well in life. And not to mention, he also said that you need to try. So if you do not try and make mistakes, you are not learning. So it's not just imperative that you work hard, you also explore and try. Tip number 3 is that the key to his and Warren Buffett's success is morality, respect, and honesty. So you hold yourself to the highest ethical standards. Imagine what you're doing is published on the newspaper. Would you still do what you do? If the answer is no, you probably might not want to do that, right? So their immense success at Berkshire Hathaway with more than 100,000 employees was built based on a strong work ethic and, more important, a series of moral principles. That's what makes them really nice to work with. As an investor, if they want to invest in a company, you'll be happy to have them because they are fantastic and wonderful people to work with. So one example of a moral principle at play is that if you see a video that's helpful to you, be sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up. Tip number 4 is to have a very strong clarity of thought. So he called this the how do I pronounce this? So he called this the Lollapalooza effect. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Basically, there are a lot of mental fallacies that will cause you to make irrational decisions. So things like social proof, things like a commitment tendency, because you have already went all the way to the salesperson's house, you might as well just buy the product because you've already been there, even though it's not a good product. Things like being consistent. You said,
yes, I want this, yes, I want this,
and then now there's something a bit iffy, but you already said yes twice. You're
like, you know what, okay, I don't mind.
Things of this sort are mental fallacies that can catch you off guard, that will cause you to make mistakes in life. So Charlie Munger's tip is that if you want to make better decisions, you must seek the truth. What is really happening, not what the environment has affected and caused you to believe what is happening. So there are a lot of books. I think I learned about critical thinking in university, a lot about fallacies. There is also books like The Art of Thinking Clearly that really helps and dives deeply into thinking fallacies that can help you think better and clearer. So oftentimes the truth is painful, but it's better to go against your prior beliefs and recognizing reality than be tricked. Make sense? So I do struggle a lot with this as a business owner, because as I get older, right, and I'm used to leading a team all the time, sometimes you get quite stuck that, hey, sometimes we should do this and we need to do this fast. But your colleagues, your teammates, your staff may actually have better ideas. So I learned that, sometimes you really should learn to entertain other people's opinions, to listen to them first, absorb them, and then only after thoroughly considering their viewpoints, consider maybe I need to change my mind or even destroy my favorite ideas based on, Charlie Munger's teaching in order to get to the truth or the best results for the team. So tip number 5 is to practice divergent and contrarian thinking. So to be a successful investor, it is important to not think like the crowd, otherwise you would only get results like the crowd. So that's why Charlie Munger mentions that he and Buffett practice this regularly in the way they invest, that they try to think differently. This ties in very closely with social proof bias, because when everyone is doing something, there is a tendency to think that, hey, if everybody is doing something, they must know something that you don't. And you're like, oh, maybe give it a try. And that is why Singaporeans love to queue, because every time we see a queue, we would think that, hey, they know something that I don't, therefore it must be good, so I should queue. Not always the case. And that is why one of the most prolific valuation Professor Ashworth, actually called this the story of the lemmings, where, if one person jump off the cliff, everybody just follows to the point that, eventually there's too much momentum, you can't stop, you are deep in that rabbit hole. So one tip for thinking differently in Charlie Munger's words is to invert. Always invert. So instead of thinking how everything can succeed and do well, think of how it can fail. What can go wrong that I haven't seen? So that thinking has helped me avoid a lot of business and investment traps, as well as judging people, right? When people offer me a deal, I always think, what could go wrong? And that has avoided, like recently, that helped me avoid $10,000 crypto scam. And tip number 6 is to know your circle of competence. So the trick here isn't to focus on what you should do, but rather focus on what to avoid. The importance of saying no. And once you know that, you need to grind hard on what you are good at. Because the lesson here is simple. If you play games that you're not good in, you're gonna lose. Simple as that. So this is where I learned that you really need to find what is called unfair advantage. But I struggled a lot with this because when I was young and I only focused on sports, being a professional athlete, I literally have a very narrow circle of competence. So it was through understanding unfair advantage when I was younger, to me, felt more like a character. I had certain strengths in character, which I then leveraged on with hard work and discipline, which eventually built into more technical, hard skill competency. So if you do not have or think you have a lot of circle of competence at this moment, don't worry, understand your character. Are you a very disciplined person? Are you a very audio-visual person? And understand where your strengths are and start building and expanding a circle of competence. And that is why I need to learn very vicariously. So tip number 7 is to have a good temperament. Charlie Munger said that a lot of high IQ people are terrible investors because they have terrible temperaments. To do well in investing, you need to keep your irrational emotions under control. And you need a lot of patience, a lot of discipline, and the ability to take losses and adversity without, going crazy. He also famously said that a lot of the big money is not in the buying and selling, but rather in the waiting. And a lot of people, once you think a lot, you read a lot, you speak to people a lot, you get very anxious and want to take action, which costs you money and success in life. So I struggle a lot with this because I don't have issues sleeping at night if I have a loss, because I guess I can tolerate a lot of risk. But as a very competitive person, I tend to over celebrate. Even when I have small wins, I celebrate, and that makes me callous. So as I age, I start to realize, okay, that's one big weakness in my temperament, which I really need to work on. So if you know what is the weakness in your temperament, do leave them in the comment section below. So point number 8 is to understand and avoid psychological bias. So earlier we mentioned about mental fallacies, that's more internal, but Charlie Munger also mentions that you need to understand these psychological biases on other people, such as incentive bias. For example, a property agent would always be transaction biased. They would want you to buy and sell because they do not earn from you investing and holding from the long term. They earn from you transacting. So they obviously have a trading bias where they want you to buy and sell because that's where they make money. Other biases include doubt tendency, because doubt is painful and stressful. So therefore, when people are in doubt, they want to make a decision quickly to get out of a state of doubt. But that could be a fatal mistake. Another bias to avoid is the inconsistent avoidance tendency. So people are reluctant to change. Sometimes, even though the deal is bad, right? They are used to it. And then they realize, you know what, let's just stick to my current situation. For example, let's say when someone offers me a deal, I said no, right? And then subsequently the deal changes. It's actually now a good deal, but because I already said no, I'm like, you know what, never mind, it's too much hassle. So there is that inconsistency avoidance tendency, which can cause you to lose out on big deals. Another psychological bias to look out for is the influence from mere association. So when two items are placed together, oftentimes it gives you some sort of bias. For example, if you're having a business meeting inside a palace, a very grand palace, you would think that this deal is more important than it currently is because of the environment you're in. Naturally, the inverse is also true. So understanding how this affects other people and not just yourself means that when you invest in companies, you need to think, hey, is this CEO biased? Is the employees there biased? The shareholders there incentivized to do something against your best interests? And the 9th tip is to beware of envy. So don't care if other people are doing well, getting richer and faster than you. Have an internal locus of control. So Charlie Munger once said that he never thought that he would make $100 million. He just enjoyed what he wanted. He was focused on achieving, autonomy from working for other people. He also mentioned things such as having no expectations, because if you have no expectations, you will never be disappointed. So even though he was doing really well, in his mind, he wasn't thinking like, I'm doing poorly compared to my peers, I need to do better. He just stopped caring about other people, what other people think, stopped envying and just focused on himself. And the 10th, one of the most important points he shared is to build your own checklist. So in his book, he actually mentioned his investing checklist, which is kind of ambiguous, but I'm just going to list them down over here. So there's 10 things you need to look out for in order to invest well. So here are the 10 lessons I've learned from Charlie Munger. Be sure to check out the comment section below, because I'm pretty sure millions of people have read about Charlie Munger and have their own interpretation and tips in the comment section below. And in the meantime, if you want to see more videos like this, do let me know in the comment section below as well. And check out what YouTube recommends you over here and here. And I will see you in the next video. Take care and invest safe, everyone.